95% of the serotonin in our bodies, which is a brain neurochemical that's imperative for mood, is actually in our digestive system. So it makes sense that what we eat affects how we feel emotionally. Today, I'm talking to Chef AJ about how you can change your mood by changing your food. Welcome to Happiness Adventure. I'm Lisa, and together we'll explore ways to cultivate real joy in our lives. First of all, I wanted to ask you, when did you realize that there's a connection between food and mood?
You know, I went to a place for healing called the Optimum Health Institute in July 2003 because in January of that year, I was diagnosed with precancerous polyps in my sigmoid colon. They were bleeding, and the doctor said I would need to have surgery, and I just didn't want to do that. So I went to this place, and it was the first time in my life that anyone, let alone people that were doctors and nurses, said that what we eat had any effect on anything, on not only how we look or how we feel, but what diseases we get and what diseases we could reverse. And so I never realized that food really made a difference in any area of life. And it was around that time when I realized that it really wasn't all food that had an effect on mood. It was certain foods, just like certain foods have a deleterious effect on your health and some have a positive effect on your health, that really affected just about every aspect of your life and your health. And so food is medicine, basically, or poison. It's both.
And in what ways is it? Why is that? How does it work?
Our definition of food has changed over the years, and what our grandparents would consider food is very different than what kids today consider food. And what I wrote in my very first book on process in 2011 is that food is supposed to come from the earth. It's supposed to come from a plant and not be manufactured in a plant. And if it comes in a can, a box, a bottle, or a bag, with very few exceptions like canned salt-free beans or some tomato products, it's not food. And these things that a lot of people consider food, like sugars and flours and all kinds of candies, cakes, cookies, pies, and ice cream, these processed foods they're calling them food, they're really more drug-like than food-like. And so they have an effect on our mood, and often it's not a positive effect. I mean, there may be a temporary lift in our mood, but they also become addictive, and then we can crash and burn and go up and down. So I don't think it's all food that has an effect on our mood, because honestly, whole natural foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains and legumes, they really don't have this effect. But the processed foods, especially in certain people that are vulnerable to their effects, people like that are food addicts, maybe people that have chronically been overweight, they definitely have a huge effect on how they feel. And a lot of times they don't even know this until they abstain. Because I didn't until I was 43. I had no idea that all of my anxiety and my depression and all those things were linked to what I was eating, because nobody told us. The doctors didn't tell me. They didn't even learn nutrition in medical school. But you can fix your mood with food.
How did your mood change once you began to adopt the diet that you now follow?
Right. I remember it was profound. And one of the first things I remember, I was in such a state of bliss and zen from not having any chemicals in my body for 8 days that it was as if I had two dogs at the time, Ginger and Sparky. It's almost like they didn't recognize me, like I had become a different person. I was so calm. I was so centered. I was so peaceful. And I wanted it to last. The calm, stable brain that comes with not being addicted to these processed foods, which most people are, because Americans eat anywhere from 67 to 72% of their calories from processed foods. There's some vegans I know that eat 100% of their calories. I use the term loosely when I speak about processed food. It's really not food. It's more like a science experiment.
What then is your recommendation for how we eat for optimum health, but not just for our bodies, for our emotions, our minds?
Well, the way nature intended, food from the plants, fruits, vegetables, both starchy and non-starchy vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans, peas, split peas, lentils, potatoes, sweet potatoes. And if you can afford it calorically, some whole food plant fats like avocados, nuts, and seeds. That's what we're supposed to eat, not sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, animal products.
When people say that we are supposed to also eat, let's say, chickens that are wild range, what do you say about that? Because that seems like something that's natural and not processed.
Well, there's a book by Dr. Neil Barnard called Breaking the Food Seduction, where he talks about meat, cheese, sugar, and chocolate being the most addictive foods. And I don't think of meat as natural anymore, at least the way it's raised, even if it is grass-fed. I don't believe that they're not given hormones or antibiotics or all those other things. And maybe it's slightly better, but again, slightly better doesn't mean optimum.
I want to thank you because you really help support people in making that transition to that lifestyle with all of your incredible resources, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. So thank you for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Lisa.
Chef AJ is the author of Unprocessed and The Secret to Ultimate Weight Loss. She also has a great Facebook group, and I am blown away by her YouTube channel where week in and week out, she shares healthy, delicious recipes so that you can follow a whole food plant-based diet and still enjoy it. I'm going to have the links to all of those things in the description box right below this video, so please be sure to check them out. And while you're in the comments, please let me know, what is a way that food affects your mood? Are there certain foods that you eat that you then notice have an impact on how you feel? Your comments transform this channel into a community, so thank you for liking, sharing, and commenting. Before you go, subscribe to Feed Your Happy with a bite-sized video each week, and I look forward to seeing you soon for our next happiness adventure.